Hello, everyone. It's Philip Lee returning with another episode of Civil War Chat. Today is Thursday, the 16th of June, 2022. Our topic today is Confederate victory in Jacksonville, Florida. Uh, First, let me just say click here if you want to subscribe to future episodes of Civil War Chat, and also click on the notification bell in the far upper right to be notified when they're released. Okay, so let me go ahead and get started with my presentation on Confederate victory in Jacksonville. 2 days ago, the Jacksonville, Florida City Council voted 13-6 to defeat a resolution that would have required the city to remove all its Confederate monuments. Now, please forward today's message. And I don't think I've ever asked anybody to do this, but in the past, but I'm asking now, please forward today's message as far and wide as you possibly can, because it is significant to those of us wanting to preserve our traditions for the following three reasons. First and foremost, Jacksonville citizens had the courage to resist the tyrannical social justice demagogues that have controlled the statue narrative during the last 7 years. Moreover, they resisted with compelling arguments. One remarked, quote, "I stand for the preservation of Jacksonville's history in all its totality without the slightest omission. Let's find another way to promote and foster unity and healing without taking away the statues," close quote. Now, this person is showing that he or she is not, anti-black or a racial bigot of any type. She or he wants unity, but he says, let's figure out a way to do that without, our side caving in and giving everything to the radical side that wants to raise these statues to no good effect. Now, another argued that removing the statues would accomplish nothing of value. Quote, "How is destroying statues improving the lives of any Americans? Use my tax money to fight evil by making our schools as safe as government buildings." Yeah, close quote. Yeah, look at all the money that's being spent in Washington to protect the congressman from the so-called insurrection from January 6th. And then look at how there was nothing done to rein in the Black Lives Matter protest during the summer of 2020, when there were many buildings looted and destroyed and set on fire, and far more people were killed during the Black Lives Matter riots during 2020 than during the so-called January 6, 2021 so-called insurrection. Well, okay. Statue opponents in Jacksonville predictably argued that the monuments promoted racism and made minorities feel excluded from American society. But in truth, America is the least racist of all major countries in the world. At a time when blacks represented only 13% of our population, America twice elected Barack Obama as president. And of course, Barack identifies as black, even though he did have a white mother. Moreover, the long line of black immigrants waiting to get into the United States contradicts any claims that America is systemically racist. Why would they want to come here if this was a racist country, particularly a systemically racist country? They wouldn't. In short, the victimhood arguments that the social justice warriors have manipulated during the past 7 years are being exposed as frauds because they contradict common sense. The Jacksonville vote may be an early indicator of a reckoning with the truth about the anti-statue crowd. Let's call them an anti-statue mob. Nobody can claim that the status of the 13% of our population that is black has failed to dominate political discussion for the past 7 years. It hasn't just been 13% of our political discussion. It has been over 50% of our discussion. Nobody can claim that the removal of Confederate statues has done anything to improve the economic or social conditions in the Black community. Most of all, the recent economic collapse that we are experiencing right now has demonstrated that an obsession with the mirage of so-called diversity, equity, and inclusion has caused our leaders to neglect policies necessary to economic success or economic prosperity. We can't have it when they focus on things like diversity, equity, and inclusion, which are mirages. Second order factors that can only be successful if you have economic prosperity, which they ignore. Second, unlike most of the towns that have previously successfully resisted the demands of social justice warriors to tear down statues, Jacksonville is not a small city. The metropolitan area has a population of 1.7 million, which ranks it as the 40th largest MSA in the nation. Third, the Jacksonville vote suggests that the public is awakening to the rotten core of the diversity, equity, and inclusion movement. At best, it is tyrannical. At Washington and Lee University, for example, it denies that Robert E. Lee merits respect for anything, even though the school would not exist if he had not taken over the reins for 5 years after the Civil War had ended. The DEI group is presently minimizing Lee's historical contributions at W&L, probably as a prelude to dropping his name entirely. Similarly, the illegal diversion of donations to Black Lives Matter during the past 2 years for the personal benefit of BLM leaders shows that those leaders were chiefly concerned with their own personal wealth as opposed to providing any benefits to the Black community at large. Today's message is simple. The Jacksonville vote to keep Confederate statues is a firm rejection to those who promote cultural genocide against the South. Although the social justice warriors have every right to hide from history if they choose, they do not have the right to hide the history from the rest of us, and we should not surrender that right to them. Kudos to Jacksonville for voting against that kind of a thing. Look, to keep Confederate statues up, we're going to have to defeat two things: the dreadful frauds of critical race theory and identity politics. If identity politics and critical race theory become the standard accepted interpretation of how our society was formed in our public schools, then you can forget any Confederate statue standing. You can forget any respect for Southern culture. You can forget any respect for the South's heritage. It's all going to be demonized. To combat it, get the dreadful frauds. It's $16 at Amazon. If you'd like an autographed copy, it's $20 from me. Just email me, Phil, PHIL_Lee at me, M-E-I, excuse me, at me, M-E.com. And Lee is spelled L-E-I-G-H. Okay, that's our show for today, and I want to thank you for watching. Let's celebrate this victory in Jacksonville.